This isn't a live video because there's a lot to cover and I don't have the best internet connection here. So I'd like to not have to do it twice. For starters, I was unable to finish the CNN thing last night where the protesters and rioters or whatever were down there at the CNN station. But I did notice that they were doing some pretty dangerous stuff. There's a way to subdue your opponent without killing them. I don't know if anybody died or anything like that. I haven't seen any news or anything today. I've been mostly feeling like crap. So I'm gonna teach y'all how to do it yourself as far as a few different ideas for riots. I'm gonna cover both sides because right now, as we've probably been noticing for the last few years, well, police are harming everybody. They don't care who. In situations like this, where we have a president who is calling to violence, we got some problems. Historically, it only takes about 2 to 3% of the population to stage an effective coup. I think the government will fold first. Where the hell did I put my ladder? There's a few things that I'm going to teach you how to make. First of all, a lot of y'all want to think about COVID-19, things like that. That's what we'll cover first. People keep saying to wear a mask, so I got one of them homemade masks. Somebody in town here in Chapel made them and left them down at the post office. I'm currently looking for mine. I don't know where I put it actually, but I am sure it's over here somewhere. I do have a lot of trash in here. Most of it's recyclable, and I keep it for a reason. It's recyclable. I like to make stuff out of junk wire. I'm going to introduce you a little bit to why I love coat hangers so much. I don't generally use them as coat hangers. I'm also going to attach some links in the bottom of this video, sorry for the long introduction, to some other do-it-yourself kind of stuff that's pretty cool. First of all, I want to teach you some tactics to not get yourself or others killed. The first one I want to start off with, and I don't mean to sound racist, but the more white people are out there standing alongside their human brothers and sisters, the less likely those other human individuals who are not white are going to get shot. So, please, white people, even if your black friends or your acquaintances or whatever on Facebook or Twitter or whatever are complaining about whites, understand that they're hurting. Just like you are, just like a lot of other people are, just like the Native Americans are. And we don't need to be having any more of them being killed, especially in the name of a man who is black and dead already. Donald Trump seriously wants to shoot black people for the honor and memory of a dead black man. I don't get that. I don't know if you do either. With COVID-19, or the Rona, or things of that nature, you might want to think about protecting yourself. Let's say, it gets airborne and it mutates into some sort of super flu. This ain't gonna cut it. This is what I got. This is so that when I go into stores, people don't look at me like I'm an idiot. It's got smiley faces all over it, and somebody here in Chapel, Nebraska made it. They left them down at the post office, and I like it. It's pretty cool. Alright, take that thing off. On the other side, it is brightly colored. That's the side that I usually stick out. Yellow is the first color that the eye notices. So, in case of any emergency situation, if you want to flag somebody down, flag them down with something yellow. Alright, now I'm going to teach you about the lethality of stuff and why they're bad ideas, as well as some less than lethal alternatives. Um, Now, I've also got protective gloves here. They're not great, but they're a common brand. As you can tell, they're just gloves. They're actually padded on the back for the winter. Those do come in useful and handy. And you can, by the way, put alcohol on them. Straight on them. I'll show you. Put on your gloves. This is the best part. They're leather on the palms, but on the back side, they're something else. Now, the part of your gloves that you're most likely to touch something with, let me close this up. Just poured some rubbing alcohol on them. Well, on this one. And then I can't feel any wetness on the inside. Let's see if they're just barely damp on the outside. Still smells like alcohol, but disinfect yourself before you take them off. Reusable. You can also get some of the rubber gardening gloves, and those are excellent. Or not necessarily even the gardening gloves. There are a lot of different thick type of gloves that you can wear. The hospital gloves and stuff like that, I don't recommend. They're gonna make your hands, well, the moisture from your hands is gonna wrinkle them. It's gonna do a little bit of damage to your dermis, which is your skin. Okay, next thing. We'll teach you how to make a face shield. Alright. First, I'm gonna show you different methods of eye protection, because you can get diseases and stuff through your eyes and through your nose as well, depending on the disease. So, we'll put on, these right here are, I guess they're called Brazen Goggles. They're not actually for welding. These will protect your eyes somewhat. They don't have rubber seal or anything, but there are some types of sunglasses that do. I'm going to be putting the stuff that I've already shown over here to the right. In case of, well, these are welding goggles. These are absolutely nice and wonderful. You can see pretty decently in front of you. Not necessarily too well to either side of you, but they got a front that closes down and up. If you get a company that makes these, one thing that you can do is you can get the see-through goggles, the ones that are see-through on the sides, just the safety ones. They have the plastic shield in the front. Pop out the plastic shield and you can replace it with this. What this allows you to do is if there's any flares or fires or anything that's a little bit too bright, you pop those down, pop them back up. Let's talk about different stuff that you can put over your skin, because although you might not be able to contract it through your skin, if you get a cut or an open wound or something like that, that's not going to be pleasant. This right here is plastic sheeting. It's for if you are painting and you don't want to ruin your furniture, you just drape this over all your furniture, and it's pretty nice stuff. you can make a full suit out of this using this right here, and see-through packaging tape. I got 2 or 3 different types, or you can use this here invisible tape stuff. It doesn't hold too good, and it kind of breaks on the seams. So you might want to zigzag the seams on that if you use it. I wouldn't recommend using it at all. Another type tape that you can use is duct tape, and I don't know where I put my piece of duct tape. There it is, underneath my telephone. This is the stuff that's supposed to be, it looks like camouflage. Between that and this stuff here, I recommend this stuff here. I've also got some electrical tape here. It's the cheap stuff. This here is something I found in the garbage from the railroad. It's got a face shield. Got some smooth parts here that I can attach tape to. If I want to attach something like, let's say maybe I want to put my hoodie over it, and duct tape my hoodie to it. Well, it only goes to about there, but I can run the duct tape down there, across there, and of course it'll attach to that there. There's enough of it. This thing right here has an air filter on the back of it, and it's supposed to take batteries on the inside so that you can, it'll circulate your air. This is actually an air filter. But it can come off, and if I take it off, see there's some stuff coming out of it because it's extremely used. Obviously I got it out of a garbage can, but on the inside you can see, hopefully, there's some ribbing in there, kind of like on your carburetor, or on your air breather, on a vehicle. Sorry, I'm about to sneeze. But another thing is you don't want to get hit real hard with something that's going to hurt you. Now this right here, if you get shot in the face with a taser, it's not going to go through this, which is a good thing. It's not going to go through this, and if you got a few layers of this on, it's not going to go through this. So now we're getting into getting tased, and of course COVID-19 and tear gas too is quite unpleasant. So that right there could work extremely well in conjunction with this. You want to make sure if you have any creases or whatever in your tape that you rub them down really well so that there's no air that gets through it. And we got, of course, the old choice football helmet. I'm going to teach you how to make a mask for this. Out of something like this. Now, one thing that we want to stay away from is flammable materials. Not just because we're not trying to hurt or kill another individual. We're used as little force as possible to immobilize them so that they rethink or you can get away at least. That's more of what I'm worried about. Now, one thing is, if you've got an attacker or an assailant, you might want to use whatever's handy. Also, you might want to prepare. At the Siege of Masada in Israel, modern excavators, they found a lot of sling stones. That's for an ancient slingshot, and I have one around here somewhere. So here it is. Now, this is not something that I'd recommend. You can actually kill somebody or something with. Obviously, they were using it at a siege to defend the place, but we're not going to show you how to use these or how to make them. You can look that up online. Because we are trying not to kill people. Now this right here, this one probably wouldn't. It's got too short of a sling or too short of a lanyard, and I can't really do the whole twirly-gig thing very well. But the sling stone, it would, oh, sorry about that. I'm dropping stuff. You take a rock, we'll pretend this is a rock. It's actually a nut. You seat it in here. You put this ring part around your finger, and then you hold the knot. And when you twirl it and you let go of the knot, the rock goes flying. Now, we want to steer clear of that, because first of all, that's a small projectile, and it's extremely likely to miss, unless you're in extremely close quarters. One thing that is your friend when it comes to less than lethal stuff is padding. Something like this, maybe not so much. Another thing that's your friend is ricochet. We're not talking about bullets, because I'm not going to show you how to make bullets or use bullets or any guns or anything of that sort. Now, I'm going to send you some links to places like Sonic Dad and King of Random, some of their videos, and a few others in the description of this video. That way, you guys can go through and take a look at some other stuff that some other people have come up with. There's a lot of ideas that I'd like to show you, but it'd be easier just to click a link. Now the filter, we'll put this over to the side too, because we're done with it. Let's say you're being attacked and you don't want to kill the other person with a blunt thing like a hammer. First of all, a hammer is difficult to wield. It's heavy, it's slow. If it hits, it does a lot of damage. You know, really, that's something that's more likely to get taken from you, or extremely likely to get taken from you in the case of especially a barricade wall. And it is something that's effective, but when you've got a lot of people who are trained with those shields, you really want to know what tactics are effective against it. Now, during a battle, it usually starts off, whether it's a major modern battle or an ancient battle, which a riot basically is, you've got skirmishing before the clash. The skirmishing in modern day is like your missiles and stuff like that. They called them missiles back in the day too, when it was just arrows and spears and things of that nature, rocks, stuff like that. Let me show you first of all that they've got those plastic shields, and I'm going to go over Roman tactics, because some of the police have the Roman style of shield and the Roman style of tactics. I'm also going to go over it because in the CNN video I stopped it right after they were talking about they were using the phalanx formation. That's what the Greeks used. The Spartans in specific used that one. Usually you want to have shin guards and things of that nature to protect you, heavy helmet, stuff like that. Now, one thing that it's important to know is that there are many things that you can do that don't explode. This right here is starting fluid. Okay, yes, you can use it to do all sorts of mayhem, but the other thing is you got to worry about backlash on you. First of all, that may get stuck on your glove or something like that. It might come back onto the thing and actually light the nozzle on fire, blow up your hand. I mean, a lot of really bad stuff can happen. When we're talking about rubbing alcohol, you can chuck this, I mean, it'll explode alcohol all over the place, and then if, let's say somebody's got a taser or a firearm or something like that, and they're covered in alcohol, they're gonna think twice about igniting anything that's going to spark. However, that's a very dangerous thing to do. So I would recommend steering clear of anything of that nature. Once somebody has been ignited, if they decide they're going to run after you and give you a bear hug, you're going to have as bad of a day as they are. And some people, if they panic, might just go running out into the crowd and friggin' bum rush you. And if they're saturated, that's going to go off onto you as well. And you're also going to get slammed to the ground and all sorts of unpleasant stuff that you just don't want. As far as chemical suits go, or suits altogether, this is that stuff that goes in the garden. It goes down so the weeds don't grow through. And this can kind of sort of work. One way that you can seal it is on the inside. It's kind of felt-like. You can spray paint that. This is something else you can tape up. Something else that's really easy to use for covering yourself, at least in part, from chemicals and from disease and from all that kind of stuff. And that is plastic wrap. I'm trying to make sure I show all this stuff so that it doesn't show the brand name. This is just plastic wrap, like for food. And you can get an industrial one too. If you want to, you can actually take that and roll it around a pre-existing garment. Put 2 or 3 or more garments underneath something that's kind of slightly stretchy, like maybe a sweater or a really big sweatshirt, something like that, and then you put the plastic wrap around it and wrap it around probably 3 or 4 layers, and pat yourself down, and then you take that off, put a layer of tape across it to hold all of the layers in place. One down each side, one down the front, one down the back. And when you take your shirt off, you keep that garment in there in that plastic, and then you set it off to the side, and then the 3 or 4 layers that you had underneath, you don't need them anymore. You just want to make sure that you're not making the plastic wrap so tight that when you put it on when you need it, that it's, cutting off your circulation or messing up your ability to move. Another thing is, against electrical stuff, rubber is extremely good, but against a fire, rubber is not going to help you so much. If somebody's shooting at you with a taser and it hits rubber, like a bike tire, or I would recommend using inner tubes, multiple layers of inner tubes. Something like that is gonna deflect quite a bit. You might want to put something in between the inner tubes, like I was saying with the garment earlier. You can do something similar like that with rubber. Um, as far as fire resistance goes, I'll also put some links to some fire resistance videos. Now let's think about what rioters usually or traditionally throw, or what you might talk about what you would throw, and other things of that nature. This is a brick. It's not very wieldy. It's difficult to handle. It's not very easy to get accuracy, even up close. It's difficult. And it's extremely dangerous. But let's see if we can tone that down a bit. How can we make that less wieldy? Or more wieldy, I guess. You got a broken brick. Yeah, you can. It's got less heft to it, so it's not going to be as effective. It's probably going to bounce off one of those shields. It'll still hurt them if it hits them in the head, but it's, again, not something that you want to be throwing at another person, especially since you're still really likely to miss. If you do hit, you're not going to be effective enough with it to really do anything other than piss them off in most cases. Most people see a brick, they're like, alright, they're not throwing sandwiches at us. Let's go to spacing. If you're worried about the police tasers, the ones that shoot the little prongs out and stick in you, like I said with the rubber inner tubes or rubber tires, rubber gets heavy though. You might want to keep that in mind. Um, let's see. String is useful. You can make a lot of stuff like a bolo, and I'll show you how to make one of those too. I want to show you something here real quick though. If you want to make a mask to keep you from sneezing, basically like a blast shield, this is a common donut bag. And it's actually plastic on the inside. Now, I cut it open to put it inside out so that I can give you an example with the spray paint. You know how the police have their shields, and their shields are see-through, and their face masks are see-through, and stuff like that, and a lot of other people have the same thing going on. You know, they're putting on face shields and everything like that. If you're attacked by somebody who's got a face shield, you're not trying to get them infected. That could get them killed. What you can do is obstruct their vision. Now, you might think about grenades and stuff like that. That's not a good idea. First of all, it's felonious, and second of all, it's stupid, and it'll kill somebody. However, this right here would work pretty decent. I could probably make a mask with, you know, 2 of these bags where I just tape them in the center, but here's one of my eyeballs. I want to show you something. Alright, we got a spray paint bottle. I can't see anymore. I probably shouldn't show that side just in case somebody's got some sort of a copyright something or other if they wouldn't like about that. I don't know. You can use this too, though. You see how this is see-through? Alright. See-through. And then we take our spray paint wherever we put it. Does that see through anymore? Just a quick stripe. Now, another thing is if you have multiple groups of people coming at you, one thing that you can do is, you know, those bike pumps. They got the special nozzle for if you're filling up something like a basketball. You take the top off of this and you stick that nozzle in so the air part is pointing down, and then you turn it upside down. I'll show you what it looks like on the inside of this first. That way you know. We'll see if I can get it off of here. It's just this little piece of plastic tubing. It's got a hole in the center, and I'll get a nail or something to put in it. That's too big. Oh, also off of that donut bag, there's these right here. It's a wire on each side of it, and then some plastic paper stuff in between. And those can be used for like the nose thing on your face masks if you want. They can be used for also making sure the stuff you want to be form-fitting does stay form-fitting around, you know, like your wrists or your ankles or things of that nature. Also, it's basically like a bread tie, but supercharged. Let's see. For in-between layers, because you want some spacing. If you get shot by a taser, or you got somebody who modified it by sharpening it down, the prongs, so that they can actually stab into you, and make sure that they get you something with some space, thicker than the prongs, work out too. This right here is just standard body for like a BMX biker. But the thing is that it does have some padding with some space. It's lightweight, it's plastic, so it's not very well conductive. And I'm not sure if I have this on the right way, but it's got the front half and the back half that just pop right on. I mean, You know, they're free floating. It's easy to put on if you have something else going on. It's easy to attach stuff to. Just attach it exclusively to the front and exclusively to the back, and you got yourself a lot of different options. You can cover that with rubber. You can wrap that with that plastic wrap. You can put some padding in between. You can throw a couple of shirts on the outside or underneath it as well. There's a lot you can do with it. Rope is useful, and I'll show you why. Um, there's a lot of different stuff that rope is useful for to prevent your attacker from getting to you. Now, a lot of people have these crazy ideas about using like axes and warhammers and stuff like that. A warhammer is just either a big crane. Sorry about that, folks. Alright, so where was I? I was looking for some stuff, such as a nail to show you something with that. As soon as I find a nail, I'll get back to it, if that sounds good to you. Um, oh, this will work. This will be close enough. I think it's small enough. Um, let's say this is your bike thing, and this is the part that screws into the pump right here, and this is the part that you push into the basketball. You push it into the end of the nozzle there instead, and then when you smack it on the ground, that little hole that's on the side of that little needle part, all of the pressure and paint that's in here sprays that all at once. Now, one or two of those isn't going to do a whole lot of good, but if you get 8 or 9 of those, and you bounce them off the floor when you chuck them, um, you can mist out a room and cover people with this stuff. You know, even if you don't get them really good, you can at least mist them enough that basically they're in a blackout scenario, or they're in a scenario where their vision is highly impaired, and then it's more difficult for them to navigate around obstacles, which makes it more difficult to catch you. If they can't see you at all, that is optimal. Now, with those shields that they use, I'm going to start off with the tactics that I saw used at the CNN building. Let me put my spray paint away real quick. They were using what's called a phalanx, but they were only using the shield part. Now, they might use that in conjunction with batons or tasers, and rioters may do the same thing. They may face off with similar tools. Um, One thing you might think about is something lightweight is easier to wield. But if you're going to use a hammer, that right there, first of all, if you do smack them, it's going to do a lot of damage. You don't want to do that. But also, um, a really lightweight hammer like this is actually going to have more recovery time for a second swing, and it's got something on the back of it for pulling the shield, because they were using a round shield. Now, let's say this is their round shield. It's bigger than this, I know, but this right here can be used to pull the shield, and if with longer distance, having some heft in your body, you can actually pull the shield away. But there's some other things that are important to know about the human body, especially with a shield. Let's put the hammer away. A heavier hammer is going to be even more difficult. I have some hammers and stuff over here I can show you. They're tools. They're not meant for war. They're not meant for being ergonomic for a second recovery. I mean, I'll show them to you in a minute. With a shield, one thing with your upper body, the shield is usually attached. You hold it with your hand, and then it's attached around here. What that means is that you've got a fulcrum. If you go up underneath the shield, now these guys have their shields layered up. This shield right here will cover up a little bit the guy to your right's shield, and the guy to the right of him will have his shield overlapped by that guy, and so on all the way down, basically like scales. Now, if you push up on a few of them, let me stand up. If you push up on it, it brings their whole arm up. I guess I should probably sit down to do this. Puts their whole arm up. Also, if you grab it from underneath and you twist it while you're bringing it up, then you can push them off balance and force them to step backwards. It also removes one arm from them having the ability to use it, as well as leaving them open completely on the front. Now, this could result in a spiral fracture. The other one that you can do is, the human body is heavy. If you clamp yourself onto the shield, and as you clamp onto it, you jump and twist, you can actually twist it on its fulcrum, and that fulcrum is their body. That probably will result in a spiral fracture of, yeah, not pretty. Another thing is, instead of killing someone, you can reduce their mobility. Now, how are you going to do that? I will show you. Alright, so I have this black stuff. It's some sort of stringy stuff. What we're going to do is we're going to take a length about a foot long, I suppose. We're going to bring it down so that the very end touches itself, and we're going to do it one more time. So we've got 3 pieces there. The excess that's hanging off, we're going to cut off. I had a tool for doing that just a second ago. I don't know where I put it. Man, oh man, oh man, I'm not too good at this, am I? Oh, another thing that you can use, I suppose I should point this out while I've got it, because I did pull this out to show you guys. Cardboard. Cardboard is lightweight, it's got air spaces in it. It's not actually that easy to light on fire. I mean, it is, but easier when it's torn up, and if you've got something on the outside and something on the inside of it, and some of the video clips that I'm going to attach to this in the description box will tell you different ways of making this fire resistant. If you'll notice, it's got air spaces there, and I tore it up a little bit so that you can see how the different layers are in that. You can take this, and there's a direction of the grain on that. Like here, it's not the direction. Now you can put your fingers in those different portions, and you can actually round this around something. Now that's not going to do a whole lot of good against something, you know, like a bullet. Matter of fact, nothing that I'm going to show you is going to do anything to stop a bullet. If they shoot you, you're dead. So don't get shot. And cardboard is susceptible to being soaked by alcohol or anything that's flammable, so steer clear of anything like this without some sort of protection from that, if you're going to be messing around with fire or think you're going to be messing around with fire. But as you can tell, it'll fit on like that, and that 2 or 3 layers of this, or a layer of this, and some inner tube would be thick enough to, with, you know, your clothes underneath, of course. It'd be thick enough to prevent you from getting zapped if somebody shot you with one of the police-style tasers. Let's see. And I did find my cutting utensil. I'm going to teach you how to make something called a bolo. Now, a bolo, I'm going to make a smaller one than you're going to want to use against larger prey. And I do mean prey. I mean, this is for hunting. So I want you to keep that in mind. if you're ever in a survival situation where you need to get some food, this is something you might want to remember too. Now we cut off the very end of it, and we've got it separated into, basically 3 equal lengths. Let's see, or we did. We're going to cut one of those lengths off so that one side is actually twice the length of the other. One of them will be about 2 feet, and the other one will only be about 1 foot. Now, these measurements are approximate, they're not exact. Here's the short piece. Here's the long piece. We're going to take the long piece, and we're going to double it up in half. So this is the third piece. We're going to attach it to the loop end, and we're going to tie both of those pieces together, although it's 3 ends that dangle. It's kind of like you're going to set it up to make a braid. You got 3 pieces dangling. Now, instead of these 3 pieces just dangling, what you're going to want to do is, this is a nut. You're going to want something heavy, heavier than a nut. Although a nut will actually work in this scenario, you might want to put some tape around it so that it doesn't do any harm, or any major harm. It might welt or bruise, but if you're trying to save your life, the person that is coming after you can be happy with a bruise. You take the first one, right here, and you tie a bow knot. You guys might want to look that up. I'm actually going to tie a double slip knot, because that's my favorite survival knot, and I'm going to show you why with the yellow rope in a minute. But when you've got 3 of those dangling down, hold on a second, I'm sorry, this is taking a while. What this is supposed to do is trip up their legs and slow up their motion so that they can't pursue you, just so you can get away. If you're trying to save your life, getting away is extremely important. You don't want to, you got just a split second to have reaction time before you end up a corpse. So you might want to find out what that reaction time is for you, and maybe do some practicing of the same motion that you're going to need to use to defend yourself over and over and over again. Try to do it 100 times the first day, and then every day after that, try to do it 100 times again. The preliminary striking areas are the eyes, the knees, and the groin. These are places where you can hit people without killing them. And I don't mean with a bolo, I mean with your hands. With your fingers like this, you can get them in the eyes. If they're wearing glasses, you can slide it up their cheeks and poke them in the eyes. They might sustain an eye injury, or they might just be temporarily blinded because you poked them in the eyes and it's a lot of agitation. If they can't see you, it's easy to run away. If they can't see obstacles in between them and you, then they'll trip on them, or they're more likely to. Now, this knot that we tied at the very beginning, this is where we hold it from. Then we got these 3 danglies. What you do is take it over your head. Now, mind you, I'm not going to do it fast. I got one of them that's just sitting here because I'm not doing it fast. But I don't want it to slip off and hit my computer. And there's some other stuff around me. Now this, when you throw it, all 3 of these will actually separate. And if you throw it at the floor and forward, then it'll bounce up off the floor, and it'll possibly hit them higher up, like the knee or something like that. And as it spins around and it hits something, let's see, I'll show you something for an example. We'll take this part right here. Now let's see if see how it went around it? Yeah. Well, if you got two of them and it goes around a few times because you really go at it, it's gonna pull their knees together, pull their ankles together. And when you want to have a good center of balance, you have your feet apart. It's difficult to do that, and it's difficult to step or maneuver when you've got stuff tied around both legs. I'm actually going to disassemble that because I don't need a Bolo, and this is kind of some crappy stuff to do it with. Now this will probably end up being more than one video because there's a few things to go over. One of the things is if you can do the spray paint thing and the Bolo thing right before a charge where you grab a hold of the shields and push them up, you need to be able to do it with more than one person. One person isn't going to be enough. That's just going to get you slammed down to the ground, possibly shot. They might be able to pinpoint a weakness on whatever it is that you're trying to use as armor and infiltrate the weakness with a taser or something of that nature. You definitely want to protect your head. That's about the most important. Another thing, that unwieldy brick. You don't want to use an unwieldy brick. One thing that you can use, though, is a plastic bottle. Now, I'm taking off the label on this one so I don't get in trouble for copyright crap or trademark or whatever. This is for me to drink. You can throw a full soda can. It'll spray all over the place. It'd be nice if they made soda cans so that they were spray paint bottles, right? PSI. PSI is important. With a brick, you're basically getting a lob shot. With something like this, you can throw it like a football. You can fill it with dirt. You can fill it with expanding foam. You can fill it with all sorts of stuff. What you really want is mass. Now, you're not necessarily going to get a perfect throw out of something like this, but there are some things that you can do to help. Like you can take a plastic bag. You're going to use this side as the front part and this side as the back part. And you put these on there and you seal them on with either a rubber band. It's basically like a drag chute. Seal these on there with a rubber band or with some tape. And then you tear a hole in the back of the bag right here. And when you throw it, this is basically like the kind of like the fletchets on the back side of an arrow. They make it spin. Well, this doesn't make it spin, but it creates drag on it so that the front part stays forward. You hit with this. This is a harder plastic. It's got a slight bit of blunted edge to it. You're going to hit with a lot more PSI if you hit here than if you hit with the flat side of it. PSI is important when you get blunt force impact, push them backwards. But because it's plastic, it's going to be less painful than if you chucked a hammer at them. And please don't chuck hammers at people. Alright, next. If you absolutely have to get away, you don't have a Bolo or something like that, the shins are where you want to smack them. You always want to get them right square in the shin as hard as you can. The shin. You get them in the knee, and that works a lot of the times, but if you try to hit them anywhere in between their ankle and their shin, you are going to immobilize them at least in part. That's an important place to smack them. Something like this can be thrown. If you have a really, really long one, then that's something that you might be able to do a ricochet this doesn't have the mass to do much as it is, but a piece of rebar or something like that, if you bounce it off the floor into it, and preferably you want something long, more of a rod type of thing with some serious weight to it, than something that's lightweight like a broom handle or something like that. Part of the reason is if you've got a small projectile that's heavy, when it hits something, it's gonna do a lot. It's gonna have a lot of force behind it. Sorry, train. Now this is a homemade hammer made out of a railroad spike. On the back end it's a spike. On the front end it's well, kind of a hammer facing. You can actually take a piece of tape and a piece of wood and just tape it a whole bunch and make something like this. And that's lightweight enough for throwing and things like that. It's a lot lighter weight than something like that, and it's easier to throw away. I mean, you can walk next to the railroad tracks and get 20 or 30 and carry around. Well, 20 or 30 of these get pretty heavy. 5 or 6 at max. Um, but that would basically just be for you got someone who's in something that's armored. This isn't necessarily, it's probably not going to penetrate their armor, but it's got enough heft to stop them without, and only if they're an armored opponent. It's got enough heft to stop them without doing enough damage to crush a bunch of ribs and puncture a lung, things of that nature. That depends on how hard you chuck it and from how far away. This is lighter weight than that is. Still, like I said, it's not a good idea. Um, there are less lethal methods, because that could potentially be lethal if it pops them in the throat or um, if it hits them in the head or something like that. It could potentially kill somebody, so you don't want to do that. Part of the thing with both the Roman and the Greek tactics is the overlapping shield technique. If your shield is partially overlapping the shield of the person to your right, then you push as a group. The far right is going to be the one that if they move, basically it starts pushing on every scale down the line. The one to the farthest to the left is the one who has the least amount of support. So the right-hand side, for them, is the strongest side. That's the left-hand side for you. So you want to go after the left-hand side first if you want to single them out and pull them away, or the furthest to the left that you can to make a break through to get around behind them. These are group tactics. Another thing that's important is you might want to go after 5 or 6 shields in a row. That means 5 or 6 people all at once run up and de-shield them. That, number one, gives you a shield to work with, and number two, it prevents them from using the shield against you. Now then there's pain compliance. You might want to think about that. Pain compliance is literally torture. If you make it painful enough, they're going to leave the battlefield. So if you smack them in the shin real hard, they're going to think twice about coming back. If you shatter their shin, they're definitely not, well, they're going to have problems leaving too. And that, well, there's a mobility issue, makes it difficult to come after you. As far as the face guard, if there is tear gas or things of that nature, you want to be able to see. or a smoke grenade or anything of that nature. You want to be able to see without your eyeballs burning. You want to be able to, let's say your neighbor's house lights on fire, right? You've got rioters over there lighting your neighbor's house on fire and a whole bunch of stuff that is just pouring black soot everywhere. You got to be able to protect yourself against it. So we'll take this here bottle and we'll make ourselves a face shield. That's the first start. Because you've got a bunch of tape in front of you or a bunch of plastic wrap layered up in front of your eyeballs, then you're gonna. This is slightly see-through, but you put a whole bunch of layers on, and it's kind of messed up. Plus, it really messes with you coming back and touching your face all the time. This is a 3-liter bottle, but you can do this with a 2-liter bottle. Actually, I think we'll hold that off till the next video.